After a massive security failure at the MCG. Two men have been charged after allegedly taking two loaded guns into the MCG during the Carlton-Collingwood clash in front of 82,000 fans.
Yesterday afternoon, the farmer had a 17-year-old's arm pinned behind his back after spotting the barrel of a shotgun in a tool bag carried onto his Jetstar flight. He might just settle for a Swans win.
I'm going to go and watch the champion win a footy game.
He was flying to Sydney with Jake Lloyd's parents to celebrate the AFL Stars' 250th game tonight.
And there's a 100% chance that there will be a major terrorist attack in the United States, or many attacks maybe.
Shall we talk Ark of the Covenant? Because I've been waiting to talk about this all day. New CIA documents just resurfaced from 1988 that claims the Ark of the Covenant is real, and we have a location for it.
Hey, so I just seen the this two guys got into the MCG with guns, and I'll try and find the post, but I put up a few weeks ago after Donovan was pointing out this this clear staged event in which they use like this mannequin and this story in Avalon Airport in Geelong around this this guy that supposedly got these guns through the airport and then got onto the plane. And of course there's a hero in the story, and those that are familiar with Ole Demigardis for years, he talks about spotting the clues, and they call this demigarding, like the verb of actually looking for the clues. And I've noticed ever since the Sydney stabbing, the Bondi stabbing, a few years ago, or 2 years ago, whenever it was, in which that guy was wearing a rugby theme with the knife, carrying the machete, and I was talking all about the second seal and the stuff that Jason was talking about. But it wasn't just that. There was, I could pick like a dozen or dozens of different ones over the years, over the last year or two, that they kept using this constant sports theme. And I'm like, they're going to use the AFL. First of all, because like the AFL is it's like the NFL or the NBA in America, as far as like what Dr. Richard Day said in 1969, that sport will be used for a tool for social engineering or social conditioning. And the AFL is the biggest social conditioning tool, at least in Victoria. But the funny thing, so what I found out in that one was there was this guy, there was the saviour. They always had the saviour. And the clue in the event, it can be a phrase. It can be like minor details that are written, especially when it comes to names of locations, even like clothes brands, stuff like that are indicating things. But there was constantly the sports theme that they used in this Avalon Airport fake event. And again, they've used guns again. So they used guns there and then guns at the MCG. And anyone that's been in the MCG knows that, they fucking metal scan you and stuff before you even get in there. It's pretty strict security. And anyway, so the hero was a guy from Moama, I believe, and he was connected to. He said I was on my way to Sydney to go to the football. And they kept emphasising this, even near the end of the story. He's like, go the Swans or something, because he was on a flight to Sydney.
Good evening. A Murray River farmer on his way to the footy in Sydney has become a national hero for foiling a potential disaster on a Jetstar flight.
He's won widespread praise after helping disarm a 17-year-old fellow passenger who today faced court, accused of taking guns and a fake explosive on the plane.
Soon, the farmer had a 17-year-old's arm pinned behind his back after spotting the barrel of a shotgun in a tool bag carried onto his Jetstar flight.
I got up quietly. He had his back to me. You don't be scared. There's no such thing as scared in that position. If you're going to be scared, you don't start.
Barry, who was sitting in seat 1C, didn't hesitate, nor did the pilot, engineers or the cabin crew who dismantled the shotgun and carried it from the plane. Barry might just settle for a Swans win.
I'm going to go and watch the champion win a footy game.
He was flying to Sydney with Jake Lloyd's parents to celebrate the AFL Stars' 250th game tonight. I'm grateful that my parents are okay, said Lloyd. It sounds like there were some incredibly brave actions from Barry and others to keep everyone safe. Mark Santomartino, 9 News.
Let's go live now to Tony Jones at the SCG, because Tony, Barry has arrived and you've just spoken with him.
Well, that's right, Tom. Good evening to you. The SCG, as you very well know, has seen many, many heroes over the decades, but Barry, who did arrive only moments ago, is in a league all of his own. He is a true hero for a whole variety of different reasons, and a pretty humble one as well. He spoke with 9 News exclusively only moments ago. Quite the journey for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, but I finally got here, and I just can't wait to see Jake play tonight. And I've known him from a little boy, and I've admired him and what his father and mother and his father supported him, and it's just been unbelievable.
Has it all?
So they're showing connection between Geelong and Sydney there too, so Avalon and Sydney. And the other one, I said they're going to do something at a sporting event around the AFL. This is what I believe. And then you've got the two. It's been for the last several years that, like, if there's a stabbing or something, they kind of like hold off saying that if it's a Muslim name or whatever, or an Arab name, they kind of hold off saying it. And this is done very intentionally. People would think it's done because they're trying to hide that it's a Muslim, and the Labor faction of the establishment are like Fabians, and they're in bed with the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas and funding from Iran and all that, and like part of that's true too. But what it really is to like agitate the right wing and go, see that they won't point out that it's a Muslim, right? They won't name them. But now they are naming him, and it's telling me that like it's entered into the new level of the game. And again, like they've chose the MCG, the place in which they've now put in federal funding. Albanese said he's going to give $30 million to this Jewish synagogue, which they've found no people that fucking bombed it or that burnt it. They don't know who it was. And anytime there's an attack on some sort of synagogue, or when there's like anti-Semitic paint, like tagging and stuff like that done, they do the same shit every time. Anytime you hear Davir Abramovich come on and defend or push for something, you know it's fake. And he's the guy who's the head of the Anti-Defamation Commission in Melbourne, the ones he called for the banning of David Icke successfully, and amongst others. Anyway, so and Albanese's announced $30 million to this synagogue. You know, there's not $30 million damage to start with. And then Dutton's like, well, we raise you $5 million. We're going to give you $35 million for the synagogue. So, and then you got around like Melbourne. I've spoke to other people down in Melbourne, like around Fitzroy. There was a guy that did a good video the other week. He went down to like Brunswick and these sort of places where they're massive. They're constantly doing these protests, pro-Palestinian protests, right? And fair enough, but it shows that these are like the blue-haired left-wing faction that stand for Israel, stand for Palestine, which is like good on them, but they're being used and manipulated to be tools in this future culture war.
Accepting one of the most prestigious honours, the Jerusalem Prize.
Melbourne's Jewish community are not easily impressed.
Daniel Andrews humoured the Caulfield crowd.
So I'm genuinely touched by the affection.
Then his tone changed entirely.
If people won't speak out against anti-Semitism, defund them.
Angered by protests across Melbourne, the former Premier took a stand.
If you want to support Hamas, then get them to pay your bills.
For a 67th straight Sunday, pro-Palestine chants echoed through Melbourne's CBD.
What Ole Demigard spoke about in 2019 of a 36 city attack all happening within 24 or 30 something hours, whatever it was, mostly based around Europe, and that these will be blamed on Muslim terrorists. But they're not just going to go and do this. I think it's going to be a retaliation response, and I think if it's going to happen in Australia, it's going to be around Melbourne, because they've already signalled it, like with the synagogue attack, all the Palestinian protests, which seem to be bigger in the inner city suburbs of Melbourne more than anywhere else. And now you see this thing at the MCG, which have named 2 Muslim men. Like, can you see how all the pieces are going together? And then the last bit that ties into it is all the other stuff. It's kind of weird. It's almost like the people I've been around have like divinely kind of put this together for me, because I've got to thank Donovan first for like putting all that Avalon stuff together, but then Nikki, the stuff that Nikki's done with the shrine, I spoke to Nikki recently, and like And Nikki's initial hunch around the shrine came from no research. It was purely intuitive, and what she said was someone told her that you need to get in touch with your own country and your location, and then she ended up finding this granite rock, and then this led her to the shrine and looking into the Ark of the Covenant, and then all the details around the shrine. And we've been talking about the shrine recently. She's been sending me a lot of different information, because what came out just recently was a declassification of CIA documents around the Ark of the Covenant.
Headlines about the supposed discovery of the Ark of the Covenant may have piqued your interest. Social media sleuths have been posting excerpts from a decades-old CIA report, which they say solved the millennium-old mystery. The documents were from Operation Sunstreak, and according to many excited commentators, they revealed the existence and location of the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark is said to be an ornate chest that, according to the Old Testament, held the Ten Commandments. It's claimed the sacred item disappeared in 586 BC. But has captivated historians for centuries, even appearing as the main plot device in the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark.
The Bible speaks of the Ark levelling mountains and laying waste to entire regions. An army which carries the Ark before it is invincible.
And they said that the Ark of the Covenant is under the dome of the rock. It's protected, that it can't be opened by any person. It's kind of like Arthur's sword kind of thing, do you know what I mean? And that there's a certain level of consciousness that actually needs to open it.
Describing a gold-covered chest guarded by powerful beings in an underground Middle Eastern chamber.
Target is a container. The target is what they're looking for on the longitude and latitude lines. This container has another container inside of it. The target is fashioned of wood, gold, and silver. The target is similar in shape to a coffin and is decorated with seraphim, which are like these gold-looking statues. This target is located somewhere in the Middle East, as the language spoken by individuals present seemed to be Arabic. Visuals of surrounding buildings indicated the presence of mosque domes. And I'm going to tell you right now that I know people are talking about, is it in Ethiopia? Because there's a lot of, Arabic-speaking people over there. No, it's under the Dome of the Rock, and I'll tell you how we know that in a second. But it continues on by saying the target is hidden, underground, dark and wet were all aspects of the location of the target. The purpose of the target is to bring a people together, meaning a religious object. It has something to do with ceremony, memory, homage, the resurrection. There is an aspect of spirituality, information, lessons, and historical knowledge far beyond what we know. And then it goes on by explaining something which I can elaborate on further of what this means. The target is protected by entities and energies. Yeah. And can only be opened by those who are authorized to do so. This container will not/cannot be opened until the time is deemed correct. Once it is time to open the container, the mechanics of the lock system will be found to be fairly simple. Individuals opening the container by prying or striking are destroyed, meaning they die, by the container's protectors, meaning its energies, through the use of a power unknown to us. Now, it sounds weird, but that's coming from the CIA. Let's not forget that.
And then people go, oh, you don't understand the Ark of the Covenant. It's actually something that resides within us. And this is like the dogmatic view that people, it's one thing or the other. I say it's both, because if what's happening, especially around the Ark, if the Ark of the Covenant is in Jerusalem, which is a city of peace, which I said there's all the Abrahamic religions in there, which is actually emerging of all these things. So you're going to have to create a mass war, and then it all eventually comes into a point of peace in the etymology, the city of peace, Jerusalem. And some people say that's the center of the earth, who knows? But everything, because we're in a fractal hologram, that tells us that if there's coming to a point of peace, and there's actually a manipulated force that's trying to bring a form of peace to bring out the new, that tells me that it's bearing what's happening naturally, and that the human race and then the human collective soul is actually coming to a point of balance as well, that we're coming to a point of unity. And then that also tells me that if that is happening within the human being energetically and also physically within the human being, then there must be a physical relic that also represents that in the natural plane. There would be that, but then also in the plane of technology. And what the Ark of the Covenant is technology. And I think that's the Ark of the Covenant in Solomon's Temple is a representation of that unity coming together. And Mark Passio speaks about Solomon's Temple, and there's many different interpretations of it. Like David Icke used to talk about the Sol, Ol, Mon, and they're all different three representations of the sun. And the shrine is all about Apollo and bringing the ray of light in to the stone that hits the ground. This is the other one that Nikki told me. It says "Greater love hath no man" on the black cube in the shrine that hits on 11:11, and the 11:11 is continual war, continuing on this war. And then it was even in the shrine book that they talk about the continual war. But oh fuck, I was going somewhere with that. Yeah, so anyway, so Nikki put in there, and I'm not big into gematria and all that kind of stuff, but she said, she asked ChatGPT, can you give us a numerology for greater love hath no man? And it's 33, or a 33-6, which is actually, 6 is like the number of children, and 6 is the number of man, just like how you hear like the Antichrist is the 666. It says the Antichrist is a man. It is the number of man. 6 is the number of man. And then 6 is also the hexagram. 6 is also the Star of David. The Star of David is Solomon, which is actually the sun and the moon. So it's this and this together, the unification. And there's why I did all those videos where it was like the kiss at the end of the movie, where the man and the woman come together through a kiss. And the best example I gave of that I can, and there's so many movies where it's a great example, like, you know, for Sleeping Beauty, for starters, The Matrix. The one I always like to point out is like the Adjustment Bureau, but the best one is Drop Dead Fred, where she actually kisses Drop Dead Fred, and the figure turns into an 8, and it's basically telling her that the two are unified and they're coming together, and it makes the 8 too, right? So this whole, because the 8 is a kiss too. It's like the pathway of the sun. It's like this over the course of a year. The sun does that, which is like a merging kiss. So anyway, fucking really, really cool. I feel like Nikki's like anyway, Nikki's like theory is the Ark of the Covenant is in the shrine. And we were tossing and throwing today too, because they said that the Ark can't be moved until its current location is destroyed. I think that's right. So I was saying, look, maybe the shrine, because they all talk about the southern hemisphere, and I spoke before about this energy, and the energy of the hierarchy of the so-called deep state is actually coming back down south. They're leaving the northern hemisphere, and there could be like destructive things that happen in the northern hemisphere, and the southern hemisphere is always seen to be the safest place as far as if there's the next cataclysm. So if the northern hemisphere holds the Ark of the Covenant, where would you bring it back down? You bring it to the shrine, which is like, when I go back to the 33-6, it's the 33-6 is like, that's the birth number too. It's the number of the Christ, but then the 6 is also the number of children, which is like rebirthing in humanity. 6 is like the number of man. And it's all there in the shrine. It's even got like the 4 buttresses on each corner of the shrine, representing the 4 parts of the earth, I think, or the 4 corners of the earth. And so the shrine was not built to remember the veterans of World War One. The shrine was built for a future event, and I think Nikki's onto it, that the shrine was built to hold a relic. If it's not already holding a relic, it's holding something else. And the other important part of the shrine is the name shrine. You can't call a place a shrine unless it's holding a holy relic. So they don't tell you what the holy relic is in there, but it's called the shrine, right? So it has to hold a holy relic. And then even in the sanctuary, that has to be like manned at all times. So what's fucking in there? Or what's under the black stone? But then again, that's all. It's all an externalization of like, because they have to build a structure to match what's actually happening internally. So that story is actually our story, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, I think there's a lot to come, but I just found it really interesting that they find this declassified document. And again, why would the CIA bring out a declassified document to tell you where the Ark of the Covenant is? I think it's because they want to highlight what is happening in Israel, and particularly within this document they say it's within a dome building somewhere in the Middle East. So they're hinting at the Dome of the Rock. And I think what it's always been about is because, you know, they've been openly talking about the destruction of the Dome of the Rock to rebuild the third temple. And so I think that's going to be the indicator. When I go back to the start of like these guys at the MCG with the guns, it's going to be the indicator and the trigger that is going to set off the sleeper cells in the West. And I've said it for ages, but like, we'll see. Set off the sleeper cells in the West will be destruction or partial destruction or attempted destruction of the Dome of the Rock, in which will then trigger the sleeper cells. Then when the trigger cells, sleeper cells are triggered, this is going to massively give Trump all this energy, because he's the one that said there'll be 100% be a terrorist attack within the US.
And there's a 100% chance that there will be a major terrorist attack in the United States, or many attacks maybe. And it's all because of what's happened over the last 3 years. When I'm president, instead of trying to send Texas a restraining order, I will send them reinforcements. And there's a 100% chance that there will be a major terrorist attack in the United States, or many attacks maybe. And it's all because of what's happened over the last 3 years.
Yes, he's the one who's been having a go at the border for the last 4 years, and what they're doing in the border, saying that you're letting illegal immigrants in, that we're letting people in. They say that we're letting terrorists in from the Middle East, we're letting terrorists in from China, and they're going to show that all this funding, and it's all going through Ukraine, and the Ukraine money's being leaked to Iran, and it's all to give Iran a nuclear weapon, and all this kind of shit. And then Iran's been funding Hamas, Iran's been funding all these other things, right? And it's just like, it's perfectly set. And then Trump comes out smelling, but whether you like or don't like Trump, he's going to come out smelling like roses, and he's going to come out with a big "I told you so," right? Which is only going to give you more and more support. And because it's a religious war, and you're going to have the attack by Muslims into the West, it's going to further the agenda of promoting the Christian Reich and the new Christian revival movement. So it's like, I'm just seeing like all of this kind of beautifully matching together. And again, like, don't go into this with any fear. I'm not even any fear. I'm not pointing this out to be like, oh, this is going to happen. Like, be prepared. Like, I honestly don't give a fuck. Like, whatever let it be. I'm just like, I just kind of feel, I don't want to say it to say like I told you so, but I feel if I don't say it, at least like when it happens, and then you're like, there's no fear around it too. You're like, okay, I can see what's happening, and I'm not going to be emotionally played. And the ones that are going to be emotionally played, especially like people that have gone through their awakening into the truth movement and then bang, latched onto Christianity or whatever it might be, and then you're in this steadfast certainty of this religion that it doesn't matter what else is going on, you're going to be emotionally played within this. This is what this whole next part's about. It's about manipulating you through your own dogmatic views and your own belief systems that are so rigid. And eventually, these belief systems are going to be breaking down, and that's the big part of the awakening for those who can see through that. And I'm not giving any answers or like telling people what's right and wrong, but it's like, don't be emotionally played. Like, sit with this if it happens. But yeah, go look at that. If anyone picks up any clues around the MCG story too, let me know. And the only reason I point that out too, because I know for a fact that there was a crisis management or a crisis acting group that have actually already done pre-footage around an AFL game in which there's some sort of terror incident or some sort of major attack. And they've done a few of these little different drills within the AFL in the last few years, whether it be for weather or I think there was a fire at the MCG. So they've done certain evacuation planning and stuff like that for these games. So I think there is eventually going to be a game where something's going to happen. There's going to have to be an evacuation from the MCG, and it's all just going to mold all of this beautiful stuff together to make this terror pie and emotional manipulation. But like, I can't wait. Look, if they're going to do it, let's do it. But yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, also go look at that one with the guy, like the mannequin. The guy that they're like pulling, this guy had a gun in Avalon. It's a fucking mannequin. I feel embarrassed because I got sent it and I didn't even look at that. I'm just like, oh yeah, well, I just thought logically you can't get guns through security and then get onto a plane. I know you just can't do that. Like, I get my scissors taken if they're that far over every time. But this guy gets guns onto a plane, and then Donovan's like, it's a mannequin. And then I looked at it and I went, oh my God. Like, it was a full piss take, that one. But then he's like, yeah, he's connected to the Sydney Swans, and he's like, oh, go the Swans. So yeah, I think there's something there. So anyway, also, yeah, like, we got tickets on sale now for the Adelaide event. It's going to be awesome. So it's myself, Georgina, obviously, so we're both putting it on, and we've got special guest Narita McGuinness, and Rachel Vaughan, and on the Sunday, so we're going to have like full catered lunch too, so this is why the tickets are a little bit more this time, so it's fully catered lunch service, so you don't have to go off and get food anywhere, it's all going to be there. And then we're going to have like this awesome day on the Sunday with Rachel taking us out on country to go spot the lays and interact with the lays and like whatever else we're going to do in there. It's going to be fucking awesome. Like I'm really, really excited about that. I think that like everything I've just spoken about, all this kind of negative stuff, and then okay, well let's bring it like, and then go on country, and what really matters is like, this is where the true intuition is going to take place, is like getting out, interacting with country and doing it with people, and being able to put our own energetic blueprint, or not energetic blueprint, but like put our own energy into the rays and have a direct personal connection with the earth, because that's what the real awakening that's happening when it goes back to all when I was talking about like Solomon's temple and the Ark of the Covenant and all these things. They're like forms of technology that is trying to mirror or mimic or replicate what is actually naturally occurring. So the fact that they're even talking about the Ark of the Covenant tells us that there is some form of unity and understanding and evolving of the human species, which is going to be symbiotic with the earth. That's what it tells me what's taking place. So it's a beautiful thing. So those that want to come, please come, get your tickets as early as you can so you can get your accommodation stuff sorted. But it's 24th, 25th of May. It's going to be great. So, and I'm going to give a whole new, completely different presentation this time, like completely different, because I feel the energy's different, and I personally need to like delve a bit deeper. But I think it's going to be somewhat of what I just spoke about at the end. This is going to be the key theme, especially with Rachel going out in the lays. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. See you later. It's the feeling of freedom in the unknown. So everything is a polarity within the universe. Everything has a counter expression. So if something exists, the opposite must exist.
More the numbers you were born with are your natural tools and talents, Kate. These are the radio stations that you are naturally plugged into.
I've been living on borrowed time for a very long time as well, I believe. So I have made sure that the time that I've had here, it's like a gift. My actual timeline, I really felt like if I could make it to 50, and I've done it now, I would be happy.
To what's going on in the world, and to you seeing yourself in a totally new light, and you can never come back from that. It's like when a rubber band is stretched, it can no longer be put back to exactly where it was.
That's something that people will be able to take in, or be able to use the lyrics at least and sing their own version of into the lays. And with the intent of clearing and cleansing and putting positive loving energy into the lay. Because we've had these Satanists hide the existence of the ley lines, co-opt the major portal spaces and do horrific things in those spaces for millennia. And what we need to do, and all we need is a critical number of people to do it, go in there and turn it around. When I realised that I'd actually chosen to come here, it was a realisation, not necessarily a memory. Then the pain went away.
Well, how exciting is this? We are definitely doing another event. Where's it going to be and who's it going to be with and all this stuff, and we can finally announce.
Going to go to Adelaide, and we're going to have Rachel Vaughan presenting at the next one.